Now our next speaker, Dr. Neerav Mandir is here. He's member of B20 Task Force on Workforce, Future of Work, Skilling and Mobility, and Chief Human Capital Officer, Sri Ramakrishna Exports. Over to you, sir.
Good evening to all of you. Yeah. I hope the energy is there in the room. Good evening to all of you. Thank you. First of all, I would like to congratulate CIA, IOE, and Deloitte for inviting me at this venue to be part of the illiterate and the erudite audience, and of course, the scholarly speakers present over here. Apologies for the wildcard entry because my landing to the venue was not as smooth as Chandrayaan 3, which got it very smooth landing. So apologies for the same. When my fellow panel member talked about that every big company was once upon a small company, and that's where I come from. I come from a company called Sri Ramakrishna Exports, only known as SRK, which is world's largest urban manufacturing export company, and I take care about the global human capital and the sustainability portfolio. I represent a company where 85% of the representation belongs to the MSME sector, the city of Surat. And when we are talking about the skilling or the livelihood, or the sustainability, or the part of the mobility, I could not refrain myself to quote a sloka from Rigveda, which purely apt to the topic, which simply says, Amamantram aksharam nasti, nasti mula noshadam, ayogyaham purusho nasti, yojakastra dulpada. If I were to insinuate what does this mean, it simply says there is no word in this world which doesn't contain any mantra. There is no plant in this world which doesn't contain any medication value. There is no human being in this world which doesn't contain any quality. Then what is missing? Yojakastra dullabha. The person who can identify the right set of skills in that human being is missing, and that's where we plug in. Because we can't avoid what is happening around the world. We are passing through a really extraordinary and unprecedented time where there is a huge gap between academia and industry. The students passing out from the respective colleges are having the complaint they are not having the desired job. At the same time, the human capital practitioners like me are always complaining they are not finding a deserving talent. So where the gap is? So are we providing the enough ecosystem to the deserving workforce who can be employed within the industry? So when I'm speaking and we are there at the conclusive event for the 3 days at the B20, and SRK is the proud premier partner for the entire B20 initiative. So throughout this journey, the task force on future of work, skilling and mobility has been focused on aligning our dialogues to cultivate conscientious, aiming to propose robust and inclusive recommendations to the G20. And we are talking about the policy-making process and how B20 and this task force is contributing enough to provide the voice to the G20 policy-making. Throughout the B20 and throughout this task force, we are talking about the world of work. And when we are talking about the world of work, it truly means the undergoing a profound transformation driven by a few key global trends, technological advancement, post-pandemic economic conditions, and demographic dividends we are talking about. The future of work will deeply disrupt existing work arrangements. At the same time, it will also create new avenues for the growth and strategy. And when anybody asks me the simple question, what do you mean by business? The simplest definition of business, what I have come across is when more number of people are fighting or struggling with the less number of resources. That's I truly mean the business. And mainly two things are quite disrupting the business arena. And those two things are data is eating the processes and technology is technically killing the value chains. And if I were to address the challenges, a crucial strategy is required to enhance the assessment and anticipation of changing skill needs through the data-driven insight, scenario planning, and agile training program, which we are intending to do. And if I talk about considering the pillars or the core pillars of the future of work, I could not refrain to quote Socrates that true wisdom is in knowing that you know nothing. And one is to start from there. So to get where you want to go, first you need to know where you are. And that's how we initiated this entire journey for this task force. So 3 Ws are important when we deliberated on the agenda and the objectives of this task force. The first W is all about the work, that how we perform our work at the respective workplace, which is second W, that how a workplace should look like and how the workplace would look like in the near future. And the third most important thing, which I am fond of being a HR practitioner, is the workforce. And when we are talking about the workforce, there are a couple of interventions which an organization can do as far as the skilling is concerned. So apart from the skilling, if I have to quote the Herzberg's theory, when we are talking about reducing the job dissatisfaction and at the same time how we may enhance the job satisfaction, there are two different paradoxes. So when we are talking about the reducing the job dissatisfaction, it has become the hygiene now. And enhancing the job satisfaction, these are the motivational factors like the rewards, recognition, how you are giving enough opportunities for your workforce to enhance their skill set and enhance their value proposition within the organization. The second pillar, which is quite complex, is the skilling part, which we are talking, I think, since our end. So, and complex, it's really, because skill is really complex in nature, it's really hard to acquire and easily gets obsolete. If you go to the Oxford study, by 2027, 45% of the existing skills are going to be redundant, or it won't be relevant in the future nearby. So there is a global need to understand and prepare both business enterprises as well as the workforce for the emerging skill needs through skilling, reskilling, and upskilling. So it's like only learning new things won't be enough nowadays. One is to explore and identify the continuous and new ways of learning new things. That's the new normal. And the third and the last pillar which I would like to talk about is the mobility part. Includes mobility across sectors, spheres, which is education and selling, and within a country and across international borders. If I were to conclude, because I know we are running short of time, some of the key recommendations I would like to share along with you, what we have deliberated in the B20, especially within the task force. The first thing is fostering the inclusive and sustainable growth in the transforming world of work, bridging the formal and informal workforce divides when we are talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and removing policy barriers and leveraging technology to enable cross-border mobility. And that's my take on that part, and how we have deliberated these nuances within the workforce, of course, with the leadership, chair, co-chair, and the inputs of the committee members, that how we tackling skill shortage and promoting skill governance for employability, economic and business resilience, and competitive advantage. Once again, thank you very much for having me here. And I would rest my case by saying that the best way to explore the best skill fit is to invent it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Neerav, for sharing the insights of the task force and their work.